Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to be creating a personal finance app. For the past couple of years I've been using a personal finance app tracker in my iPhone, and I don't think that it's good enough for me to track all of my expenses, especially after a couple of years working. Then you started to invest in a lot of different stuff as well. And this app is very simple, the one that I'm using on my iPhone. It tracks my income and my expenses, but then that's it. So I don't get to put a tag, to put a category on each of the transaction, and therefore I cannot create any chart at all. So today I'm gonna start creating a personal finance app based on React and Next.js. This video is gonna be split into a couple of different parts. I think the first part right now that we are going to do is going to be the front end and the homepage as well. The second part and the third part later on will be the architecture of the backend, and we are going to continue with the front end to develop that even further. So I'm gonna start by showing you guys what I have in the boilerplate. Basically, I already have a boilerplate for Next.js project. This boilerplate is open source. It's also located in my GitHub. It has a couple of development tools such as ESLint, Comparison, and Husky. It makes it easier for me to develop with these three tools as well. Basically, I am hooking the Comparison with the pre-commit Git on my Husky so that my commit message looks good. And also I've got a couple of helpers, including Formic material component. That is a component that I created. It's a Formic wrapper to the material UI component. So whenever I use material UI fields such as text field, button, switch, checkbox, and everything else, it's already wrapped in Formic. So I can just use Formic to create forms whenever I want. And I will show that as a demo in this video as well. And then there are a couple of different stuff such as Cube, React Redux, Day.js, Axios, and a couple of common stuff that we usually use to develop a web app. That also includes Tailwind CSS. That is a CSS tools that I always use day by day. So if you can see, I already have everything set up at the left hand side here. And I already run the server as well. The Next.js app is the normal Next.js app with the homepage, except it already includes the integration for Tailwind CSS and for Material UI. So if you go to Pages, App and Documents, then you'll be able to see that there's a theme provider for Material UI with a provided theme here. And then there's a Document.js for me to customize the integration to Material UI. This is the recommended integration from the Material UI examples. So we can just leave it right there, and then if we go to the index.js, then we can modify our files here. In case for all of you guys who does not know what Next.js is a React framework that gives you the ability to do a server-side rendered application so that your application is SEO friendly if you use Next.js instead of create React app. So we are going to start with the homepage. I'm gonna give the name Sharkware. Sharkware is actually the first theme of freelancer that I created during college, and we still have that logo that we created like 5 years back. So I'm just gonna create like an open source application for everyone to learn as well. So I'm gonna start by deleting everything in the main because we don't need any of this. We may need the header and footer, but we are going to move that at the underscore app.js so we can modify them later on. So we're gonna delete the footer and move them to the app.js. It's gonna give you an error because we don't have the styles footer. I'm gonna start importing a couple of stuff that is missing. It's just the head file, and then we still need the styles from, or you know what, let's just rename all of this into a Tailwind class, because Tailwind is already integrated in this project. So if I do something like this, the name of the app was Sharkware, so I'm gonna make Sharkware copyright 2021. Now, if we are looking at the global.css, we can see that Tailwind is already imported, and now we can see that the footer is there, but it still looks pretty bad. So we are gonna give it a padding, some height, and a border at the top. There you go. I'm gonna change the text to bold, make it look like a legit footer. Nah, that's too large, so we're just gonna change it to medium. Copyright 2021. Okay, that's good. Now, we still have assuming that we are going to create 3 different menu later on, let's say home, about, and contact should be at the top here, right there. Now I'm gonna start by removing this container first, because the thing is messing up with our styling. Ideally, I want the header to be at the top and the footer to always be at the bottom. And also I want to have a main class that grows perfectly to fit the minimum height of the whole web app into the whole screen. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm gonna wrap all of our file here, and I'm gonna give it a minimum height to 100 VH with the Tailwind. So min-h-screen translate to 100 VH as the minimum height. So that's gonna give us a div that covers the whole screen, and I'm gonna change that to flex column. Now, that should be pretty good for us right now. But what the other thing that I also want is, let me just inspect this element right now to see what's happening here. Okay, there you go. So that should be as expected. Now we want to translate this styles.main into a Tailwind, so it's gonna be easier for us as well. Apparently it has flex1, display flex, flex column, and everything in the center. So that should be pretty easy to translate for us. Because it's flex column as the parent element, and we want the content to grow, we're gonna give it flex1, and then we will flex everything, every children in this main element in the direction of column, and then we're gonna move everything to the center. Now that should still fill everything right now, right? Now what we can do to the navigation at the top is to make it as a row instead of a list. So how do we do that? We can give it a class name flex row, and now it should move. And also we can give it a space in between. Now it should have a space, but it looks too close to each other, so I'm gonna give it a padding as well. Right, that looks pretty good. In case if I want the logo on the left and I want the menu to be at the right, I'm gonna give a flex row and then there's a justify between. Right? So that doesn't really change anything yet at all right now. What I want to do is to give a logo to the left hand side. So how do I do that? Anyway, before this project was created, I already prepared myself with two images that I want to put at the home page, which is our logo and a creative experiment SVG that is from undraw.co. This is a free illustration that is given by one great illustrator, Katerina Limpitsoni, and you can use all of the illustration here, copyright free. That's really good, and you can also customize all of the illustration based on your theme color. And because my predefined theme color right here is this one, the color is 07748B, so I want all of the illustration to be at the same color as well. There. And now I can fetch any illustration here with my theme, so the site will look better as well. Now I'm just gonna add that logo very quickly at the app.js. Whoop, I got an ESLint warning from Next.js. Also, I forgot to tell you guys that the ESLint rc.js that is included in this project in my boilerplate, I already created a couple of different extensions that will prevent me from doing something wrong in the JavaScript React, basically when I'm developing. So I'm using a lot of recommended plugin from different sources such as Airbnb and Next.js, and also React app from the React team to warn me if there's something wrong that I shouldn't do. So that includes the warning that I receive here, do not use IMG, because if you're using a Next.js, then they already created an image component for you to use that is optimized for the Next.js app. So I'm just gonna use that instead. I think the property is height and width, which is square, and then there's alt logo, and I'm just gonna close that. Now, wow, that's too small for our app. That is still too small. Okay, that looks pretty okay for me, although it's a bit blurred over there. We are going to fix that later. Now we can see that this logo and the menu that we have at the top is not aligned. So I want to align them based on the cross axis. That is pretty easy to do with Tailwind. We can just do item center and it will align them according to the cross axis, which is in this case, because the flex is a row, then the cross axis is Y. So we will have home, about, contact aligned here. So we already have our header and our footer. Although our footer seems to be a bit off as well. So I'm gonna change the header to H16 and see if it looks good. I'm gonna move everything to the center. Good. So now we already have our header and also our footer. And remember, we also have material UI in this project as well. So because I already wrapped our component with theme provider and I already provided our theme as well. So in this project, we have two configuration. The first one is Tailwind. And also the second one is theme from material UI. Because I already set our primary color in the material UI. Whenever I created a button, let's say I want to create a sign in and register button to the right hand side, then you will be able to see our color as well. So everything will be aligned. Every theme on this website is already aligned. So for instance, I'm gonna give you an example here. If I imported a button from material UI core, I'm just gonna put them at the right hand side, sign in. Okay, that's seems to be a lot of space. This is because of the justify between, so I'm just gonna wrap this in a div. Right, there you go. Does not seem right as well, so I'm gonna give them a flex row with its own space. I'm gonna make the space X the same, and I'm gonna align them to the same center as well. There you go. But now we still can't see the sign in and register color as well. You can actually set the variant. I'm gonna set the other one outline. Contain, I guess, for sign in, and then I'm gonna set the color to primary. All right, there you go. So now we have our header and our navigation, and also a website with a theme color that is aligned to the logo. Now the middle part will be pretty empty right now, so I'm just gonna fill that with some illustration. I'm not gonna waste so much time on the home page because we are going to focus ourselves in creating a personal finance app. So I'm just gonna fill that with an illustration and some cool wording. So let's have a look. What can we put in here? I already imported an SVG element from undraw, so we can actually use that. Let's use that together. Oh, this is missing a parenthesis. So I'm gonna make a div with an image, let's say from images creative experiment illustration. So I'm gonna use Tailwind to determine the class name as well. Okay, there you go. So right now it doesn't seem to be very engaging without wording, because this illustration is like someone using a software. So why don't we make like a tagline that seems to be pretty cool. I'm gonna make a flex row and I'm gonna put a wording next to it, and then I'm gonna say something like creating software for human. Font medium. Huh. Okay, that seems to be pretty cool. But I want the for human to be at the bottom, and I'm gonna make it bolder. So I'm gonna wrap it with a div again. And I'm gonna make something like for human. I'm gonna align it to the right hand side. And now I'm gonna make a margin. Or I'm just gonna make a space x8. There you go. So I'm pretty happy with the home page right now, but we just need to make this a link, because this one right now is not clickable. So in Next.js, the way you create a link is to import a link component that they already prepared for you, which is importing link from next link. And then you should be able to wrap this in a link. So for instance, I think it's not src, it's href. This one should go back. Let's see the warning that they're giving to us. Pass href is missing. Okay, I think I did it wrong over there, because link, the recommendation from the Next.js team is that link should wrap an A component, because they are passing the href reference. So it should be like this. Also, if you're wondering why do my code keep formatting itself every time I click save? Like every time I click Ctrl S, then it just format everything. That is because I am wrapping. No, that is because in my settings of my VS Code, I actually use an extension to format my code based on the ESLint configuration, and you can actually see them here. I'm using ESLint config option ESLint rc.js, which is at the root of the file. And I also use default formatter as VS Code ESLint, and then format on save, I put it to true. So that is the explanation why my code has been formatting itself into recommended one by Prettier. So I'm just gonna close that and quickly wrap everything with link. Also, it doesn't look really good if we just hover them and nothing actually shows that we are hovering them. So what we can do with Tailwind is we can do hover text blue 800. Then every time we hover at this, then it's gonna change color. You won't be able to see them, I guess, right now because the color is too light. So I'm just gonna blue 200. Then you can see that it actually changes. So I'm gonna do that for every single file, no, every single link in our site. Also for Tailwind CSS, because I want everything to be the same color, but we don't have our color in Tailwind. What can we do about that? In Actually, in Tailwind CSS documentation, you can extend its color by putting it in the Tailwind config. So what we can do is we can put our colors in the extension here. So we can put colors, and we can define our own color primary, the same one as we have did here. And now we should be able to use this color primary to every single color related class in Tailwind, such as text-color, bg-color for background, and everything else. So we start by using the color primary. On second thought, I'm gonna add the secondary color as well, just for the sake of simplicity later. Now, if we want the color to change to primary color on hover, then we can actually do it like this now. Nope, sorry. Now it changes to the primary color. Hopefully you can see that this color is the same with our button. So instead of doing copy and pasting that, I'm just gonna copy and paste this. And I'm just gonna delete the rest. I'm gonna rename them to about and contact. And then, because this is Next.js, so everything below these pages will be a route. So I'm just gonna put /about and /contact for future reference. Alright, now we can see if we click this about page, then it's gonna take us to 404 because we don't have it right now, right? Alright, so now we have our homepage. That's a quick overview of me creating the homepage. I will make another video in the future. So our next video will be how do we create the forms and how are we going to structure the software to create a personal finance app. We will dig down in details for the next one. That is a quick overview for the homepage. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.